You're listening to HowStreet.com radio, available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. Welcome to HowStreet.com radio, the online source for market opinions. Here is Jim Goddard.
My guest is Chris Vermeulen. His website is The Golden Oil Guy. Welcome to the show, Chris.
Hey, thanks for having me, Jim.
Something that we'll talk about that's interesting. A $1 million crowdsourcing is going on, sponsored by Integra Gold Corp. And what they want to do is raise $1 million. And what you do is you become an online prospector to pick the property in the Val-d'Or area that's going to be the next big producing gold mine. And the winner of this online contest will be announced, or the winners will be announced at the March PDAC conference in Toronto. Chris, have you ever heard of anything like this before?
I've never heard of crowdsourcing for finding, veins of gold in the ground. It is definitely outside the box for trying to find new ways to make it affordable to find gold, I guess. And
is this just a sign of the times, too, where, smaller junior exploration companies have been dropping like flies?
Yeah, it's been a very difficult time for junior miners. There's really no interest in miners right now. As so many people have been beat up over the last few years, they just don't want to touch it. They're actually I would think they're one of the most hated investments right now. And of course, in my opinion, I'm a contrarian. When something is completely out of favor, it's been out of favor for a long time, and especially it's been moving down in price and at critical levels. Usually when something is hated, it's generally going to become the next darling and catch a lot of people off guard. And this way of raising or trying to give prizes to somebody who can find the sweet spot in the ground where the gold is and giving a prize for it is an interesting, crowdsourcing. It's definitely a hot topic and an interesting way to try and maybe get people interested in that company to help them get rolling. But, it just goes to show people are getting really creative to try and find gold now.
And the next step, I said it's much like everybody placing bets on who's going to win the next war on Game of Thrones.
Yeah, exactly.
The odds, this company says, now look, we have historical data, some 6 terabytes of data going back to 1933, on 50,000 holes that have been drilled in that area. So they try to give you all the technical data, and then they're wondering, do you really have the technical chutzpah or guts or skill to actually be productive?
Yeah. Well, you know what? If they have the right data, you never know. There just might be the right geologist guy that understands everything that they have. There's a lot that goes with that to try and figure out where things could flow and how they would go. And you never know. It might just end up being one of the most lucrative and most interesting and biggest, things to kind of hit the market that's totally fresh and new. Why not give a whole bunch of people the data and say, make something of this? There's a lot of people doing big data, trading. They can take random numbers from anything in the world and they can find out a way to, make it tradable with systems around it. So if you give enough people data, somebody might be able to come out with something that's extremely accurate out of the blue and say, this is what I've come out with. You should check in this area, and it could work phenomenally well. You never know.
I could see geology students getting into something like this, a class project.
Yeah, I think it would be a great class project. It would definitely make it interesting, and it adds that money aspect to it and competition. So it's perfect for this type of thing.
The money you would have spent on beer for a month, let's see if we can make some money in the gold market instead.
Yeah, let's go hiking out there and get eaten by black flies and do a little on-ground discovery.
Well, that's what it's all about. And of course, the guys will say, a month's worth of beer money? Nah, don't be ridiculous. How about 2 weeks?
Yeah.
Well, anyway, something there. And what about gold and silver? Apart from this interesting crowdsourcing venture, anything going on there right now?
The gold and silver whole sector has been really dead. Really since 2011 when it topped out. We've really seen, from an investor's standpoint, we had a major breakdown in 2011, and the downward trend has yet to let up. It is slowing, but it's still making a series of, both for gold and silver, and gold and silver miners. The trend is down. It's lower highs, lower lows, and it just continues to kind of go. We are showing some accumulation going on in the gold miners themselves with just specific miners. But again, they're still out of favor. It's coming. When we look back at the U.S. dollar, you and I have spoken about the U.S. dollar kind of big picture trend a few times over the last couple of months here. And the U.S. dollar is forming a major topping pattern potentially here. And if it breaks down, which I think it could break down in the next few weeks here, that I think is going to be the trigger that's really going to spark a broad commodity rally in general. And when the dollar starts to break and sell down, it's got a lot of room to fall. And that I think is going to trigger a massive rally in miners and in precious metals themselves. It's going to spark a new bull market for precious metals. And I think it's also going to spark a big rally in crude oil and in energy stocks in general, because there's a few energy, there's natural gas and crude oil, both forming very strong basing patterns. And once they start to break out, that'll be, two energies that I think have got massive potential to rally 30-40%. And the energy sector, the XLE ETF, will skyrocket and likely push to new multi-year new highs, really, in general. Well, I think the broad stock market will struggle. So there's going to be a big shift here, I think, in the second half of this summer here, that's going to really kick in, and we're going to start to see the commodity side come to life.
We'll have more with Chris Vermeulen right after this.
More and more people are looking to the internet for intelligent, riveting, and thought-provoking interviews. To advertise on the Goddard Report and TalkDigitalNetwork.com, call 604-699-8600, 604-699-8600.
Welcome back. We're speaking with Chris Vermeulen, the gold and oil guy. Chris, any particular sectors in crude and natural gas that you think are going to be hot?
In crude and natural gas, if we take a look at the oil index, so it's a basket of oil stocks, it has formed, and this is in general even with the whole energy sector, but oil stocks specifically have formed a really nice, like a signature style basing pattern, a pattern that usually signifies it's a major bottom, and we're going to see a multi-month rally, possibly even a year-long rally to new highs. And of course, the energy stocks, as of today, on the weekly chart, looking at it as an investor, is making a fractal kind of reversal pattern, meaning it's formed a bottoming pattern, had a nice strong rally a couple months ago. It's been pulling back, and just as of this week, we're seeing price actually shift to the upside. The momentum is now turned up in oil stocks alone, and it looks like they're about to start a major rally. And of course, crude oil, if you look at the price of crude oil, it's formed this multi-month, very bullish price action, this basing pattern. You could call it a double bottom, a W-shaped bottom, a cup and handle, whatever you want to call it. They all mean the same thing. They mean the market looks as though it's bottomed. The odds are pointing to higher prices. And the next rally that could literally be starting as of today with a nice little pop, I think we could see crude oil run from $61 a barrel, which it's at right now, all the way up to the $75, $80 a barrel. And I think it could do that in potentially 4 or 6 weeks. And we're going to see a massive rally in the energy sector, I think, unfold here.
What's going to happen to natural gas?
Yeah, natural gas has been under a lot of pressure the last few months here, and it looks as though it's forming a basing pattern as well. It's not quite as mature as the crude oil chart, but it looks as though it needs another few more weeks, maybe a couple more months actually, to continue to build this basing pattern before it takes off and rallies.
In British Columbia, Petronas Gas and Shell are both said to be right on the edge of having some major things happen that will get their projects fired up and going. Any indication on the international market of something like that?
I haven't paid too much attention on what's going on in the international market, so I can't really provide any insight on that. But overall, with natural gas and crude oil forming these bottoming basing patterns that they are, and with the U.S. dollar forming this topping pattern, I think we're going to see a big shift where resource stocks in general are going to firm up. An energy sector, I think, could be one of the hottest ones over the next 2 or 3 months. And then from there, I think we'll see money start to rotate into the precious metal side, and precious metal miners and metals themselves will actually then take over energy and carry the torch rally to some new highs.
Chris, anything else you wanted to throw in today?
No, that's really about it. I think those are the key, really, when I'm looking at the main charts here that I follow, those are kind of the real big kind of moves I think that we can see unfold that'll last a month or three going forward, which is just the strength in the energy sector. And then I think after that, we're going to see precious metal sector kind of carry the torch later this summer after we see energy have a nice rally here.
Well, some people have told me if you're buying gold, you're actually currency trading against the U.S. dollar.
Yeah, you are in some way. I agree with that. But still, it's still an asset, and it's something everyone should have some in their portfolio of. It is part of diversification. It is a hedge and insurance against some potential financial collapse, and it doesn't matter what currency you have. If there is a collapse, the gold should hold up and gain value.
Chris, thanks a lot for chatting with us.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Jim. Always a pleasure.
My guest has been Chris Vermeulen. His website is thegoldanoilguy.com. You're listening to HowStreet.com radio. Our popular YouTube channel is Talk Digital Network. Find us on Twitter at TalkDigitalNet. Comments about the show can be sent to info@HowStreet.com. I'm Jim Goddard.
Comments made on HowStreet.com radio are an expression of opinion only and should not be construed in any matter whatsoever as recommendations to buy or sell any financial instrument at any time. Available online at TalkDigitalNetwork.com. HowStreet.com radio is a production of HowStreet Media Incorporated.